Well, welcome to our third lesson in Unit 1 on solving equations. In this lesson, you're going to be translating words into algebraic expressions and equations. And you're going to be using those properties of equality that we've learned before, or properties of real numbers, and now properties of equality to solve equations. We're going to talk about those. So the properties of equality that we'll be talking about, and these are kind of obvious in a way, so don't think too deeply about this. The reflexive property of equality basically just said any number is equal to itself. The symmetric property of equality says that if you have A equal to B, that's the same as B equal to A. There's a symmetry about that. The transitive property says if you have two things that are equal to the same thing, then they must be equal to each other. So if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, so both A and C are equal to B, then we can say A must equal C. That's the transitive property. Substitution says if A equals B, then you can substitute A or B anywhere. You can replace those by the other thing. The addition and subtraction property of equality says that if A is equal to B, then you can add a number to both sides or subtract a number from both sides, and you're not changing the property of equality. They're still equal. And likewise, multiplication and division. If A is equal to B, then you can multiply or divide by the same number, and it doesn't change that property of equality. So let's go ahead and do some practice. Let's translate some phrases to algebra. So the first one says 4 times the square of a number. Now whenever you see a number, you can let it be whatever variable you want to. I usually just choose x. So 4 times, excuse me, 4 times the square of a number is going to be 4x squared. Number 2 says twice the sum of a number and 3. So twice means you're going to multiply by 2. The sum means you're going to be adding something. And what are we going to be adding? We're going to be adding a number. So let me go ahead and put some of this stuff in here. A number means x. The sum means you're going to be adding. Twice means you're going to be multiplying by 2. And 3 is just 3. So twice the sum of a number and 3. We're going to do the sum of a number and 3 first and then multiply it by 2. So here's 2 for you to try. You can pause the video or you can do these at the end of the video. The quotient of the square of a number and 2 and 10 less than half the sum of a number and its square. Try those on your own. We can talk about those in class. So to solve equations, a mathematical sentence that has an equal sign is called an equation. If it has an equal sign, it's an equation. If there's no equal sign, it's just an expression. To solve an equation, we use the reverse order of operations. So here's some examples. This one we want to get y by itself. Remember, when we're solving, we're trying to isolate the variable, trying to get y alone. So here's the thing we're trying to isolate, right? We want to get that all by itself. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 2 on both sides. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other one. I'll put the 18 over 1 and multiply by 3 over 2. Now on the left, when I multiply by 3 over 2, these cancel and they're just 1's, right? And the 2's cancel and also become 1's. So I'm just left with y, which is my goal. And y is equal to, on this side I can divide 2 into 18, and that goes in there 9 times, and the 2 becomes a 1. So I get negative 9 times 3, which is negative 27. Okay, so that's your answer for that one. Number 2, the first thing we need to do before we can jump into that one is we need to get rid of our parentheses. So we're going to use the distributive property. We're going to multiply 2 times 2x, which is going to give us 4x. And then we're going to multiply 2 times a negative 1, and that gives us a minus 2. And then we're going to multiply by negative 4 to give us a minus 12x. And a negative 4 times a positive 1 is a negative 4, and that's equal to 2. So now we need to figure out which terms are alike. So I've got a 4x here and a minus 12x. So how many x's does that give me? Well, 4x minus 12x is a minus 8x. And then I also have a -2 and a -4, which is a -6 is equal to 2. So our reverse order of operations says we want to do the opposite and get rid of our addition or subtraction first. So when I do that, my 6's add to 0. Always keep your equal sign lined up. And I have on the left a -8x equals 8. The last thing I need to do is to get x alone is divide by -8 because it's being multiplied by -8. And this one gives me x, because my -8's cancel, equals -1. All right, last one, problem number 3. So the first thing you want to do, actually I think what I'll do is I'll let you do this one on your own. Go ahead and see if you can do this one on your own. Use your distributive property, get your like terms together, and solve for x. And I'll check your answer on that one in class. Be sure to ask me about that. Number 5, we are going to, slide number 5, we're going to be using the properties of equality that will allow us to solve any formula for a specific variable. So in this problem, we have the formula for the surface area of a cone is given by pi r L plus pi r squared. L is the slant height, r is the radius here of the base, and we want to solve it for the slant height L. So the thing we're trying to isolate is this one right here, right? So we want to get that one alone. So we're going to go ahead and first of all, we are going to get rid of this pi r squared, and it's added to this term, so we're going to do the opposite and subtract it. And whatever we do on one side, we got to do on the other. So once we do this, then these are going to cancel out, right? Those go away. So we end up with s minus pi r squared equals pi r L. Well, L is being multiplied by pi and r. So if we do the opposite and divide on both sides, that will help us get L alone. So the pi and the r will cancel, and we'll have L equals s minus pi r squared over pi r. And even though it looks pretty ugly and messy, we've done what the problem asked us to do. We went ahead and we solved it for L. All right, solve by defining a variable, writing an equation, and using the properties of equality. It says, suppose a radio station has 300 tickets to a Minnesota Wild game to give away. After 1 week, the station had given away 108 tickets. If the radio station wants to give away the same number of tickets each day for the next 8 days, how many tickets must be given away each day? So the first thing we need to do is recognize we need to define a variable. Then we'll write an equation, and then we'll solve. Okay? So in this one, we have a total of 300 tickets to give away. And after 1 week, the station had already given away 108 tickets. So let's call W the number of weeks, okay? Okay, so if there's 1 week, then there's 108 tickets given away. So we want to know how many tickets or how many weeks it's going to take. It says if the radio station wants to give away the same number of tickets each day for the next 8 days, how many tickets must they give away each day? Well, we're going to end up with 300, right? That's all they have to give away. And the first week, they gave away 108, okay? And they want to give away 8 tickets, right? Or 8 days, they want to give away the same number of tickets. So we're going to take 8 times however many weeks there are to figure out how many they need to give away each day. So they've already given away the 108, so we've got our equation. We just need to solve it for W. So they already gave away 108. So we're going to subtract that from both sides, and that gives us over here, what is that? 192, if I did my math right. And we still have 8W, right? They're going to give away for the next 8 days the same number of tickets. So W is really the number of tickets. I'm going to change that, number of tickets each day. Sorry about that. So the number of tickets per day, and then we're going to divide by 8, divide by 8. The math for this is really pretty straightforward. Writing the equation is probably the most difficult part. And 192 divided by 8 Looks like about 24, right? So they have to give away 24 tickets a day for the next 8 days to use up the 300 tickets. And that will do it for this video. See you in class.